ask the cloud. Perfect. Then... I just need to find the right window where everything is running and working. There we go. That's the one. No, that's not the one. This is the one. Good. So, can everyone see my screen? I hope so. Looks like.
Yep. You can see the dashboard.
Perfect. So, what's the target of this meeting? I have by now the dashboard designer working with saving to files and loading from files, which means that we can live edit, hopefully, the dashboards that we are targeting for our first internal release. And the idea is now to see if we can get this working with that editor and get the correct files. And hopefully at the end of the session, we have basically our 2 dashboard files and the visualization files that we can move over into the code repository. And then we have our first dashboards created through the designer, and they should be working. In the document I shared for our product analytics sync, I shared also the schema changes issue, which is the main latest thing that Max has created and then is merged this week, which includes also all the schema changes to the database table around sessions and daily users. So this is what we are running here. And on the other hand, we have also a short description how the saving will work for all the people watching this also at a later point. That idea is quite simple. We save next to any group or project, basically the ID to another project, which then can have its own complete separate settings of how it saves file, but it especially can be a different workflow than the project that you might be watching the dashboards in. And the same can go also for group, which is especially important for Optimize because they are rather targeting groups first and maybe at some point projects, and we are going the other way around, which would then, in reality right now, everything that I will show today, dashboard editor itself, is completely generic. So it doesn't listen to anything analytics specific. We feed paths and functions from the outside, and we would do the same for Optimize, and then it would also work there. And we are using the read repo API, and we are using the write commit API. So those are the same APIs that our web ID is using, that the source code browser is using, and as the other project, the dashboard repo, in that case, is not having any sort of merge restrictions. We can directly merge into main for a first version. The idea that I'm currently looking at for a phase 2, where we have then can also support more complex one, is not to create on every change an MR, but rather that we can set the dashboard editor against a certain branch, so that you can set in the dashboard editor and in the dashboard viewing, no, I don't want to view the dashboards of main. I want to view the dashboards of this branch, edit those, save to that branch, and then at one point basically say, okay, I want to create an MR and merge this together, which in reality, in the dashboard editing will be almost the same, apart from one thing that will be basically dynamically based on which branch we are saving to. But of course, this will take another iteration or two until we would have that opportunity. But we would be able to support both kind of workflows along the line. Questions around that?
Is the idea for phase 2, maybe this is a conversation for a later time, to allow them to kind of permanently work off of multiple branches, or is it the point that they can kind of continue iterating on their dashboards until they're ready to merge it back into main?
You edit as long until you are basically ready and say, I would be happy to merge those changes now. So So you're basically working on a branch all the time, because otherwise the problem would be the workflow. As soon as you say, I want to add a new widget, and you click save, and if this would then go always to a new branch or a new MR, you would end up with tons of different branches and MR. So
Yeah, I get the idea behind batching it together. I think that makes sense, because if you're working on like a dashboard and you're trying to figure it out, but it's not ready yet, and you want to publish a second iteration of it, that makes sense. I was more specifically asking about whether you want to be able to allow users to always work off a branch like permanently, that they can just change between versions of a dashboard while they're viewing one, or if it's just for that purpose of batching changes, and then eventually once they're happy with it, it goes back to main as like, this is the final version until I want to revise it again.
I would rather say the second, but I would always leave it to the projects, because if you look at a lot of Grafana setups, etc., there is maybe simply the restriction who can change what, but they simply have a list of per dashboard, per version of what versions are existing. But I think if we allow that, you simply can, anyone who is in a certain group, basically the other project, can edit and save directly to main, and that company is happy with it and has simply a much faster workflow, then great. But we would be also able to support this additional workflow of you do all your changes, create a batch, the batch gets approved, gets into a normal merge request, and then basically in main you will see all those changes again.
Okay. Yeah. Just for context, the reason is I wonder if at some point we have to account for users who might start their set of changes but don't realize that they're looking at an older version, because maybe perhaps as people or groups are working on it, main has changed and they don't realize that they're still looking at an older version of it. But we can, that's like getting into the details of phase 2, but I was just curious. Thanks.
Good. Then should we try this out? I'm curious. So what I have right now, my setup is the following. I have set up a second repo that I'm pointing in the source code as a hard-coded value at the moment, because this would then come from the backend and be configurable. I have now a project which is called company-xyz-dashboards. And under there, I have a directory which is called .gitlab for our config files normally, a directory for dashboards, and then a directory for product analytics. And I have now the IDE opened next to it, so that if something goes wrong, we can still fix it. And we hopefully can also see all the changes while we are editing. And apart from that, I would say, let's get started. What was our first one? The first one was always audience. So I'm going in. What you see here now is already that we have the 2 dashboards that are in our source code, so that the GitLab provided ones, and those 2 are the ones that the user has created and are coming from the other repo that currently simply have an ID. So I'm clicking test audience. That doesn't have any sort of widgets. I will close also my console bar. And now we want to create a new widget, which then gets saved into a different file, so that we can basically reuse this multiple times across the different types of dashboards, and basically can feed options in it. So, but as long as we have a visualization, then we basically can change how it counts or what it displays, etc. But it would stay always the same across multiple dashboards. So looking at the internal preview dashboard, our first one is users over time. So we have on one hand the daily active user chart. Currently we have only a line chart. And let's take a look. So I have already I'm adapting to the changes that Max made. So we have now here the unique users. What did we say per day? Okay, then we also give this thing a title, daily active users. We want to group them by day, which is basically here we see now the preview on a daily basis. By the way, this is already pre-aggregated. That's why it's so fast. It's all the local queries take now under 20 milliseconds most of the time, which is pretty nice, even if it's a limited data set, but just having something that responds so fast is perfect. Good, so that's our preview data. That looks already nice. We want to have a line chart, which gives us this one here. And we can take a look at the code that the whole designer produces. So this is basically unique user counts. That looks good. It's granularity day, UTC time, and the options are also set. So I'm fearful, but I will press add to dashboard. So we are now going over and ta-da!
Nice. I'm making a note just to double check, sorry, daily users count, the measure, because I know in the issue it's counting by source IP. I don't know if that's the right metric. I know we have anonymous user ID, which I think this measure is based off of, but I'm just gonna confirm that.
Yeah.
For that widget, is there a way on the x-axis to hide the average or the max, or even just that that line entirely?
Not yet, but that's exactly where we need. What I figured out during the whole process is that we definitely, what we need is, I call them inspectors, so that we have in reality like a file what we want to configure, and based in the configuration, we can set what type of UI control we will have for this. So this would basically mean show legend checkbox, and that basically is in the visualization designer. We can then have those chart options, which is currently an empty list in the next iteration, where we then would be able for the whole visualization to set and hide that legend, and that would be happening then for that. Good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I think it's fine for daily active users to have average and max, but it might make less sense for other types of widgets.
Yeah. Good. I hit save. It was saved successfully. Let's not trust the system and reload, and it works. The dashboard has saved that widget. So
very cool.
Test audience. So this is now the other repo, and there it is. It's not prettifying yet. That's also something. So I'm always copying into my prettify and then back, but it's there. Good. Next one. What do we have next? Edit.
Next, we want sessions over time.
Sessions over time. Okay. New widget. Sessions over time.
Mm-hmm.
This is down here.
Similar over a daily aggregation.
I have here also already the different numbers in that Max has provided with duration, average per user, and visit percentage, but we will take simply the total count. This is now one count. We want to have this also on a daily basis, I assume.
Yeah, I think we just keep it consistent. Yep.
Have a line chart. Code. Okay, we have a title, add to dashboard. Sessions over time. I hit save. Ta-da! Good. What's next? In addition to the widgets above, at the below widgets to the dashboard, single stat, total unique users. Okay, let's try that. Did I hit save already? I hit save. Okay. New widget. Total unique users, which is discount. And now we are not setting anything, but I will simply say single statistic, which is this one. So then we basically see the single stat. We have the code. Now we need to add a title. Total unique users. Add to dashboard. There we go. And we hit save. But by the way, here the visualization gets like a default title. That's what we are entering in the visualization. And the first thing that you can edit now per dashboard is that you could, for example, this widget could then have different input options again at a later point, but you at the moment you can at least change the title. So this is basically also live updating and changeable there. And
Yeah, I think that'll be useful in the single stat too, when we start to want to show like deltas relative to the total value or something like that.
Good. Save. New widget. What else do we have? New users, new versus returning sessions. Oh, that's a percentage. That's a calculation that we need to do. But we have, at least we should have the repeat visit percentage.
I think that would work for now.
Okay.
So what does that represent? What does repeat percentage mean?
The amount of users that have returned compared to new users. There is a, let's see what, there is a, we can look at the code, which is called repeat percent. And if you look at this merge request from Max, then you can take a look at the sessions table, and 10% of repeat session is the repeat count versus the count. And the repeat count, this is
It's basically tracking whether there was a previous session before it, which qualifies as a session as a repeat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so that'll match pretty well with what the new user's definition is there then.
Yeah, we just wouldn't be, can't show both at the moment right now, but yeah.
And there we, for example, need an option. Should we round the number?
Yeah.
So this is new users percentage.
I think it's returning users percentage, but
Yeah. I mean, like this.
I understood the value to be for returning users, like how many people returning are returning sessions.
Yeah,
not
this
use
is
new. Yeah.
Yeah,
this is
inverse of it.
Yeah, returning users. Happy?
Yeah, that's good.
Let's add it. Yeah. We learned
Needs some
something.
polish.
Yeah. And we hit save. And total number of sessions. New widget. Session. All sessions compared. Single stat. Total sessions. What happened here? My return number is lost.
Might have gone to edit before the save finish, perhaps.
Yeah, but good that we have a separation of widgets and visualizations, so we can say new widget. Wrong button. Now,
I don't think you hit save before you went back to edit.
Now we are lost. Good. So we have what returning users percentage.
Oh, that's cool. So it saves it under your recent, under so the widget had saved, but the dashboard configuration had not saved there. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. The visualizations, as it's always separated, is saved there. And the other thing was the total sessions.
Mm-hmm.
We need do you really want to leave the page before you lose your unsaved
Yeah,
sync?
I'll need some tests and some user feedback.
Average session duration. Open question, can we compute this? Yes, it computes.
Yeah, we have it calculated already as a measure.
Average session duration.
I would just say what I've noticed is that Cube likes to round aggressively down, so I have to double check that.
The single statistic. Add to dashboard. What happened there? Did I say not save again? It's most of the time it's the fault of the user. We know that already. Good. But that's also an interesting one. What do we do with the title? Make it smaller? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that happens sometimes in, for example, size sense, where your labels might force your values to wrap or something like that, but we can take a look.
I mean, at some point, we could even go as far as to let each of the visualizations have control over fonts, font sizes. At that point, you become a dashboard designer, and it's all up to you if you really want.
And what we can do now, for now, is simply that we take this.
Yeah, in total, there's a 5 single stats inner spec, so I think they get a little bit more room for the labels.
Yeah, let's do this. Ha! Who needs polishing?
Well, there's one more, but
that gets the full width. Number of sessions per user.
or average sessions per user, I believe. Actually, that's the value that I'm not super keen on with Cube.
Because it rounds it down, you mean, or something else?
Yeah, like there's a, for example, I was calculating it based on the test data set, excuse me, where it was an average of 1.4 sessions per user, but then it just showed 1. In that case, I was like, that doesn't help. It looks like it's better here, but I'm curious, depending on the data set, if it's that value becomes a little bit less valuable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Good. Then that's now an interesting one. Let's see if we are able to build this one. I've never built that one. We say new widget.
The table?
Yeah, so we have, I think we only can show one of the values, either sessions or unique users. What do you want to see?
I believe it's
So we can't
I
combine
see.
we can't combine those into a single table then?
Not yet. No, we can't show 2.
Let's say unique users to start then. I mean,
Yeah,
I guess we'll get both in.
And we have browser. There you go. This means we have Chrome, we have the versions. It would be good to have a sorting thingy, and we have the unique users count.
We don't have a way to update the column names there right now, correct? Like for just the visualization, we couldn't rename that to like browser instead of UA family.
Yeah, no, not yet. That's also a really good question, if we should do this fully automatically or do it fully automatically and provide still the option to tweak that afterwards it was filled. So
yeah,
we can definitely clean up some of the names in there, because I think like Jitsu unique count is something that shows up.
Yeah.
But then yeah, still giving them customizability on the column names, as well as like sizing and things like that, which I think was brought up in a previous discussion, because perhaps your URL or doc path field is like, taking up 20% where it should be taking up the majority of the space, right?
Yeah.
And a small nit on the title for this, it should be users per browser, right? Not browsers per user.
Users per browser. That was made on purpose.
Making sure you're paying attention.
Well, if we can't display both in one table, what do you all think about just displaying 2 tables here?
It's an option, but I think it's more of a, can we add additional measures? I mean, I think it's more of just like enhancing the widget itself, to the visualization itself, to support it. But
we try it, see if it looks too busy.
Let me reload. Table doesn't want to be saved. Browsers per users. Let's see. Okay. Let's do sessions per browser. Sessions, browser, sessions, browser. We want a data table. We add it to the dashboard. There you go.
Very cool.
Are we done? I would
That's
say
everything
so.
for audience. Yeah.
Then
Just needs to be rearranged and such.
Did you hit
I
save?
still,
I hit save. I think so.
Just to be extra sure.
Good. Then we have behavior.
so Sam, are you keen on having two tables now, or because I remember that was a concern from before?
I wanted to see what it would look like. I think it's good to have the information there. I do think it's a little bit busy after seeing it. But I figure for the purposes of this meeting, we're just trying to get through to a first version. Some other things I think we might be able to try is if we want to do like one of the tables on the left half and the other table on the right half, maybe that would fit. Or we could just ask some people, hey, do you think this is too busy or is this helpful? And we can iterate an update from there.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, I remember when we were discussing the requirements for this, we only wanted to choose one table and avoid using tabs because we didn't support that, and not avoid using multiple tables because it was a bit busy. But yeah, we can discuss it.
To make there be a single set there, what if we moved the 3 session related single stats down into their own row, and then that would take up enough space so the sessions per it would move down. It's like average session duration, total sessions beyond their row with, yeah, there you go. With the average sessions per user, then the table shouldn't try and
yeah. You mean this one?
No, he's just like placing it temporarily so the table can go next in line with the other table. Yeah, like that, and then the single
Now
stats
move it
can...
up again.
No, we can leave those all in the same row, I think. I think since they're all logically about sessions, it makes sense to have them in the same row. The ideal situation would be to have all 5 of those in a single row, but we can't make that fit right now because of the super long decimals.
I would say that's more of a, like, we should try to stick to the design that we originally intended for, and then we have to fix the, like, polish the widgets so that they don't, you know, wrap as, or, you know, display the values as long as they do, right? I mean, if we're trying to fit it to the requirement of the issue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as long as it displays now, I mean, we will, as every time we will look at this, we will be reminded anyhow that we need to polish the rounding, and we need to figure out how to show 2 different types of values per data set. So I don't know, as you wish.
So, I mean, I'm fine if where we end up hitting save today, it looks like this. And then before we actually close the issue, we get another issue put together about make the decimal rounding correct and move the single stats around so that it looks like the concept diagram before we actually officially close it.
Sounds
what do you
good.
think, does that with you?
I don't know that it necessarily requires an issue, because another issue just be, I mean, specifically for the visual bugs with the visualizations, yes, but as far as the existing issue is concerned, it doesn't match it. So I don't think we need another issue to like relocate the single stats, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. This looks good.
Then behavior, here we come. Should contain 2 widgets, page views over time. So That's definitely, we need to figure out a way then how to organize those visualizations, because of course they will show up everywhere, and need to have nice titles, etc. So page views, all pages, we want to have them grouped by day, I believe.
We didn't call it out, but yeah, let's do day.
Good. And we want to have a line chart. There we go. Page views over time. On the weekend, I will try to do a speed run with this.
Cool.
Events over time. They are currently the same because page views are also events.
Yeah, but we'll be adding custom
Yeah.
events next week, so we can just build it out. It should look different later.
Events, all events by day. Events over time. What we could do is, no, that doesn't work yet.
No, I think, yeah, just simply events, and then as we collect additional ones.
Yeah, because we could say on with a filter all events which are not page views, but there is no selection.
That'd be a different sort of widget.
Yeah.
So so this one would be the all events, and then we'd have that not page view events.
Yeah.
If we get to the point of being able to show multiple series on this series of data on the same widget, that could also become multiple lines on a single line chart, where one line is page views, one line is clicks, one line is etc.
Yeah.
We don't have any instrumentation that's doing anything besides page views right now, correct?
Right. We wanted to add search input usage and I think breadcrumb clicks or something like that for the internal handbook, but that's not been added yet. I have to create the issues for that.
Okay, cool.
Doesn't seem to save those on the behavior one, which is interesting. Page views over time. Save. Network. Response. Looks in general fine. A glitch in the matrix that we need to figure out. Events over time. We also need to check if we make our row height a little bit smaller. Look, this is a huge jump between one row and the other row. Might be also something we need to check.
Yeah, we haven't really messed or played with the grid stack configuration. I mean, this is probably the first time we've put all the widgets together, so we can tweak to see what's going to be ideal in terms of the spacing.
Good. Events over time, single stat, total page views. Page views, all pages, single statistic. Total page views. At the dashboard. That's weird. Let's create first all the widgets and then total events. Events, all single statistic. Total events. And we hit save. And then we want to show top pages. Let's see, new widgets, page views, or
average time on page is the third single stat, if we can do that one.
Yeah, that's currently not possible yet.
Yeah, we're only tracking average session duration, I think.
Okay.
Good. Should we do URLs or paths? Paths, I believe.
Yeah, let's do path.
Data table. This is now an interesting one because we have also, at least in my test data, but it will be different on the website. We have also tracked GitLab URLs internally with Chris Monkey. So this is not actually a URL of the internal handbook, but rather the a GitLab.
We can filter by doc host though, can't we?
True that. Let's say host.
But that's a good point. I mean, ideally, you wouldn't be tracking multiple properties or, you know,
Yeah. But
root URLs, but
you can say page path, add a filter on host, which equals this one, save, and exploded. But it was a nice idea.
well, theoretically, it should work, right?
Theoretically, it should work, exactly.
Yeah, but for now, I
we
think
have
we can just leave it as is.
Yeah, we have the data table. So we will call this top pages. Add to dashboard.
Let's see who gets the most space. Yep, that's yeah.
So we save this. Let's see if it actually saved. No, that's weird. I need to check that. Events over time. Save. Refresh.
And said it saved successfully in the
Yeah, it's weird because the commit happened. Let's see what's in the file. Test behavior.
Is the toast perhaps actually showing up sooner than when the commit API has completed its
maybe
operation?
because it has events over time in the file right there.
Yeah. 0.6 size 6.5. Yeah, maybe there's a delay.
Yeah, where it completes the commit, but it hasn't actually reflected or
it's
when it's trying to read.
Yeah,
maybe.
Cache bust, maybe. Good. What was the other top pages?
I wasn't sure if it's caching because it saved the new single stat before, like it lost a single line chart. I'm just talking out loud though.
Good. Top pages is in 6.0 with 12.8.4. That's funky. It's some sort of caching or so. But that's fixable. It's saving correctly. It's simply not loading correctly. Good. Complete?
I think so.
Yeah, there's a couple of follow-ups for behavior so making sure we get the custom events and then average time on pages, but I'll create the issues for those.
Cool.
But yeah, it's looking good.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. And Tim, is this being built off of the MR that you have posted for Widget Designer right now, or is this a different set of code that you're working off of?
This is the spike. So I have an MR, which is the spike, which already contains exactly what's here. And I'm now basically cutting away one MR at a time to get actually fully merged. And right now, what is basically being prepared is the widget designer, which is everything in this page, but without the filters and without specific date ranges. Everything else will get merged in this huge MR, and from that huge MR, we can then definitely have much smaller ones. And the editing experience, I discussed yesterday and today with Brandon, Ezekiel, and Pavel from Optimize. So Ezekiel has just merged today the Optimize component, which basically encapsulates all the VSM stuff in itself. And so you basically hand the component a project, and it will tell you all the VSM statistics of that project. So the idea is to build for them, use this dashboard designer, which is all the functionality around moving the boxes and saving it to a file. And I will work together from Monday on with Ezekiel to get the MR for this ready. So this will be basically, we can have Ezekiel working on this, writing the specs and helping me on that, so that we get that over the finishing line. And as soon as this is merged, the generic dashboard component basically has then the capability to edit and save somewhere. The main thing that we need to get rolling now on the backend side, if we are moving forward, in my perspective, this looks really good with this project pointer, then we just need the backend to provide us a field on a project and a field on group for Optimize, where we can save basically the reference to that other project and build the UI around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very cool. And there's no reason I couldn't point it at my own project. Like you couldn't, there'd be no nothing stopping you from having the dashboards live in the same project that the definitions in.
But most probably you will stumble across, especially in this first iteration, because this keeps us moving in the sense of that we can actually save files, will be most probably then read and write access checks that you can't post to main, which normally is the thing.
Sure.
Yeah. But it's the nice thing is that we have now either or, and that means that we are already up par with Grafana, is you can go in any of those files and basically go into the history, wait until Webpack is compiled, and basically have all the updates, and would be possible to jump back to one of those, which is exactly one-to-one what Grafana and not even.
This is going to be a killer feature for our offering versus what a lot of other offerings in the market have. This is a huge pain point many people just have to deal with and have no solution for. So
it's solved because we are using 100% simply other projects.
Exactly.
It'll be nice too to be able to, I guess, as we bundle changes and kind of reduce the amount of MRs per individual change, right? By doing the branches, like saving each branch merge as an iteration, so you can compare from like what's changed in the dashboard. Like, I don't know if that's worth exploring. Does that make sense? Like actual, like the version history of the dashboard itself, and like going back to see what that you just load that version of the configuration so you can compare.
Cool. Like a rollback preview.
Yeah. It makes sense because if you're already like, if I built one dashboard but I want to iterate over it, and then 10 changes later I have version 2, then I want to see like what's changed since then. Or if I want to look back to see, maybe I did something wrong, or I just need to compare it, because that's something I found I was doing often with Sysens, but I had to do that by copying it exactly and then looking at 2 different screens together.
Yeah. And if you this is the code for this, and what you have here is now this product analytics API, which simply has now here this hard-coded project value. And then it has hard-coded also the path to product analytics visualizations and product analytics dashboards. We could make this also configurable in the first iteration or at a later point. But the main thing is here that I'm using simply here main right now also as a static, which means if we have a switcher at the top, we could switch to any kind of branch or commit to load from there. And yeah, this would be really nice.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be hard because this is just one value that needs to be fed into that function rather than use main all the time.
I've got a lot of I think I have like 14 issues to create based on this meeting. Also, just before I forget, Tim, debouncing on like things like editing widget titles, do you think that's something we need to look into? Just because like when you're typing in live the title, okay, yeah, because I imagine 10 widgets in, you know, that might have some issues.
This is currently not even debouncing. This is even just in the view component, basically updating the object all the time.
Right, exactly.
I want to update, render. So
I'm not saying that should have been there. I want to make sure, like in terms of follow-ups, it just kind of came up as an idea. So I'll create a follow-up for that.
So
cool.
We will do now those two paths. One is that already in review, huge first iteration for the widget designer. The other one is that we cut out the first version of editable dashboards. And then the follow-up would be adding the filter, adding more inspector stuff so that we can really go deep into such topics like hiding the legend. Perfect first example, so that the component basically gets an option. We get a config file which says, yeah, line charts will have an option which says legend on off, which has a checkbox. And then because otherwise we will building constantly huge view components. We need a system to have configurable UI in that sense, so that
that's fine. Yeah, we have like all the options. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that we can build stuff really fast next to each other for especially such static types, but also then have a good example is for optimize. They will not need a widget designer at the beginning. They will have one component, but they need to set in the dashboard for this component always the project that this component should display. And that's something we should also generalize from the get-go, so that we have like an inspector which can say it's a Boolean or it's a project selector. So
yeah.
Well, and hopefully if they're going to be using this, they'd be willing to contribute back some of the features that we both need around this is what displaying widgets looks like, because we have lots of very specific questions about our underlying data sets and what we need to do to define how a session looks or a returning user. But things about how do I turn on and off a legend, that's generic from product analytics and more specific to front end. So I'm excited we'll be able to solicit contributions from other people using this. And eventually we'll get that flywheel of lots of groups use it. So lots of groups contribute, so more groups use it, and so on and so forth. I'm really excited.
Yeah, for now I have a couple of follow-up issues just specifically for what we need out of the widgets for the internal preview, but I think it'll be useful to go through each visualization. So for example, line chart, and see what options are presented by e-charts, for example, and what we expose to GitLab UI. And then identifying which of those we just have as standard controls you can modify in the visualization designer itself. But
cool.
No, it's great.
So in reality, I can take now these files, take them into the source code and replace the test dashboards that we had so far, and basically use them and deliver them straight away. So as soon as we have the connection and production and have this super special MR with those updated dashboards, we should be able to see exactly those dashboards then in production next week.
Yeah. Very cool.
Sounds good. Awesome.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot again for being super flexible to move this to Friday, and then happy rest of your Friday. See you soon. Sam, enjoy your holidays as you are off from today.
Yeah, thanks. I might be able to join for the holiday party, but otherwise, yeah, I'll see you next year afterwards.
Yeah, perfect.
Always a fun phrase. See you next year.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.